Hey Scorpio, this is a reading for your month of April 2025, astrological reading. And the month of April began with a loud, big eclipse in your sixth house, which would have had you really change and end some sort of routine in your life that was not supportive of your well-being. And also that was some form of work or some sort of line of service that you are busy in was not really in alignment with your true destiny and your true calling and your purpose. And so these eclipses shift us into our soul, more soul aligned path. And this would have been something that caused you stress and perhaps health imbalances. So basically, there's an imbalance in work and health and life that now becomes more balanced. Having quit something and ended something, and now you're beginning a new routine with a higher with a higher quality of living and a better being of service in a way that really aligns with your true calling and what your true gifts are. And so then the sun is going to move into your seventh house. So that could very well involve a joint contracted partnership agreement period. This happens every year, but during this time, you perhaps initiate financially co-benefit partnerships and or a romantic relationship is coming in, and as a result of something you quit in that sixth house eclipse, now has a green light, goes forward in another area of your life where you can really collaborate in some other financially beneficial partnership. And again, this could be romantic as well, because a lot of this astrology in general is people lining up with their true divine mates for a soul calling and a joint contracted mission. So, especially now we've got Venus and Mercury in your fifth house, you're really reflecting on what friends or what associates or what collaboratives, relationships, and romantic have been successful for you, have been productive for you, or have not been, and where you've made agreements and relationship friends that were not supportive of this new path that you're on. So you're sort of that shift with that eclipse came with some sort of friendships ending or reevaluating, and then sort of, shall we say, not people pleasing those people anymore and letting that go and stepping more into another form of service, because there we have these planets moving into your sixth house where you're going to be very inspired and invigorated and exciting for a new way of operating, or shall we say, a new way of being of service on a day-to-day level that really balances your life out, that feels much more in alignment. And it is a house of income. So there is income connected to this new path. And again, you're realigning to a more soul aligned, destined relationships and releasing other ones that really just took up too much of your time. And you felt you had to maybe be a bit of a people pleaser around, but you're letting those go so you can step more into your authentic path. And then with Mars, your ruling planet, moving into the 10th house, is going to give you a lot of inspired new beginnings in a career. And again, this will involve the sun will be in your seventh house. So this is like career, joint, soul contracted partnership agreements that are very much in your destiny, very aligned with your soul's calling. You're moving much more in alignment to a much happier destiny. Let's put it that way. A destiny where you're your authentic self and you feel more liberated from these stresses and from other work obligations that just don't feel like you're being of service in the most way that you are capable of being in the service. And then we have when the Mars moves into on the 18th into your house of career, you're feeling very inspired, very motivated, very driven to initiate some new beginnings involving most likely a joint soul contracted partnership, most likely a relationship, marriage partnership. And so then we have Jupiter in your eighth house, and now that stays in your eighth house until June, mid-June, where it's in exaltation, which then it moves into your ninth house, which is really good luck, by the way. But for right now, you're having the Jupiter in your eighth house, where you're really coming to terms with some sort of perceptions, and because it's in Gemini, that were very fear-based. And so you're sort of going through a transformation by learning a lot more about your the things that you have been really afraid of. There's a transformation, there's knowledge coming in that transforms you spiritually and helps you have more, shall we say, less fears and more risk taking and feeling expanded. It's a finance house, so there could be transformation in your finances for the better, perhaps debt incurs, high debt incurs during Jupiter in your eighth, but by the time it leaves there and goes into your ninth, you're going to have some sort of really lucky, perhaps windfall of income that really annihilates that debt. So Jupiter in the eighth can create debt, but it also creates a beneficial outcome of that debt, like a big if it's an investment, a big return all of a sudden. So now you have Saturn in your fifth house where you are ending and dissolving old relationships, old partners, old, possibly creative projects that you shared with people, entrepreneurial ventures, old ideas, old creative projects are sort of in the dust, dissolving away, old friends that are not really in alignment with who you truly are. That are not really part of your soul's journey are going to dissolve away. Then we have Uranus in your seventh house again, creating a financial liberation through some sort of partnership agreement and perhaps a divine marriage partnership. And you're going through a lot of shocking, shall we say, experiences around partnerships. And because you had the eclipse there last couple years. So you're really going through a shakeup in relationships where you're really learning what is the soul aligned, destined relationship. And you do have some sort of liberation coming in that department, in that area of your life where you suddenly, shall we say, are financially liberated through a co-collaborative partnership. Then we have Neptune in your sixth house. That's going to be there for a good 14, 15 years. And that is healing and helping you really align with again, that is very creative and very psychic, but it is having you transform into a more happy day-to-day life, a more sort of dreamy, artistic, creative flow life with inspiration. And it's very much a healing house with the Neptune there. And then with that Pluto in your fourth house, there is going to be transformation around family dynamics and depths of financially, shall we say, a family ancestry where you're really transforming and healing some sort of deep family wounding that has come from generations and generations. You're changing the cycle, you're changing the pattern, shall we say. And then with the North Node in your fifth house, and you're having the big North Node Saturn conjunction in your fifth house. So a big shift is occurring in your friendships, in your friendship circles, where you do then become very committed and make a very long-term commitment. This leans more to romantic relationships in my opinion, but a very powerful contract or agreement is initiated that really puts you onto your true path. You're very committed to this because it's Saturn. We may not see the results of this happening right away, but you can see that this new partnership, marriage, relationship is the one that's going to last you a good 30 odd 29 to 30 years. Now, that is a very good auspicious situation too. This is sort of a Lakshmi house where you can have your finances really release, your abundance kind of released through this relationship. In other words, this very abundant situation opens up for you here. And then then you're going to have a full moon in your 12th house where you really overcome a karmic pattern in relationships, where you really you really have this sort of revelation about making agreements with people that you can't really follow through on, or that are just sort of from your past, from people from your past or your past life, just sort of you just fall into these patterns with relationships and contracts that you're not really committed to. So these really and they become very clear that these aren't the contracted or partnerships you're taking with you in the long haul in the future. And then you become sort of liberated from all of these, shall we say, karmic ties, and you free yourself and you become what I would call um, more ready to make choices, sort of choosing relationships and contracts from a really wise and learned, evolved place where you can really change that pattern and you see the right, more defined, aligned, soul aligned relationships that you want to align with. And that happens in the mid-month. All of these big shifts and changes for you happen in the mid-month, except for the Uranian shift. But So there's this big shift happening in the mid-month where you become way more aligned in, and then we've got that new moon in your seventh at the end of the month where that aligns with this contracted partnership agreement involving a fated divine partnership where and let's say if you're really young, it could be involved pregnancy as well with this fifth house, by the way. I should throw that in. So basically, there's this new very powerful new contracted, fated, destined relationship that puts you on some sort of new service oriented earning an income in a way that really does provide a stable income for you for the long haul with Saturn there in your fifth house, creating a long-term, committed, collaborative relationship that can really shift you into an abundant, new, fresh start in a project or financially co partnership where you become financially stable for a good long period of time. So basically, to sort of summarize this reading, you're basically making a big shift out of contracted jobs. Well, let's just say work job situations that are just where you feel somewhat enslaved and it's just a burden and it's not really good for your health. And you're now stepping into a more inspired, aligned new way of being of service that really involves a counterpart. This is also the eighth house Jupiter there can also increase your income through relationships, joint resources. So there's some sort of joint or connection coming in that pulls you onto a path that is very fated and more in alignment with how you are here to serve. And and this shift really makes your life a lot less stressful, more calm, and more and healthier. So I hope that is helpful for you, Scorpio, and have a wonderful day. Namaste.